Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Political Minute with Colin Dawson. Talking over how Civil War and everything else comes and goes, the conversations over it, everything else, it seems to visit every country as many times as it can in their existence. Even if it's just a small town, an area, or something else like that. Looking at it from this perspective here of the Civil War and everything, I was looking at a tribute to Robin Williams on YouTube here tonight. He was going on, it was his last interview, he was talking about playing Truman. He went on about how everything seemed just like the 60s. It's all similar to him. How violent it was then and now and everything. And in a way, I think I saw something there in it. Everyone will psychoanalyze it. That he couldn't live through another time again. Another upheaval, everything else, when it seemed like there was so much hope. So much future, and everything's just turned back again on itself. Now, I know that the Northeast is pretty blue. California and the Pacific Coast, it's pretty blue. After World War II, those areas were probably the reddest that ever existed in the USA. And after the war, everybody left and went to the heartland to try and find a way to get away from it all. Farm for so many years, live off of built up incomes, just disappear from it all. Well, looks to be doing the same. There's a lot of homeless in California that came back because they just couldn't leave the area. It's like they couldn't leave the base. Same with like New York. You hear of the infamous Coney Island methadone clinic. And I remember talks from people back then that they thought there was going to be a civil war in the late 50s. Stalin died and you couldn't trust anybody else over in Russia except for Stalin. And then you found out that Stalin did stuff. Maybe they made it up just so we wouldn't go to civil war. Kind of like how people say things are kind of a little made up right now. There's a lot of new immigration right after World War II. There's a lot of new immigration right now. A lot of immigrants coming here from areas that we've been at war, or else areas beside them, and areas we've never even heard of. It's really an interesting situation. It is different and difficult in every way to understand what it is that could be going on. I'm not sure anymore what the proper answer is, but as the blue moves in to the areas where red's generally been at, there'll probably be another wave of immigration. And it will probably be a red wave, just different from the old red. Just like how the blue wave that kind of came on these shores at World War II was different from the old blue. Now, in saying that, what does it mean? Is it just a cycle that we have? Maybe. Are there other factors contributing in? Most definitely. Will there be a type of civil war? Do they tell us all that really went down before the pullout and leaving of CHOP? Most definitely not. I had somebody walk by and give me a little call sign on it. I knew him from a long time back. You can say whatever it is. And It's just how many people went down because they're not used to shooting at people who are not in a uniform, not used to doing anything else, and using instant force and trying to negotiate, talk with. They're a person that's just out there and they go, yeah, I'm really worried about whatever it is, and up comes the gun. That's one of the main things out there is you think that it's going to be army against army with it. But it would be civilians with army stuff against the army as it's standing right now. It'd be senators and governors, militia and Nat Guard, and individual town, city, states. Individual police. It would resemble something more from Batman. I think the last Christian Bale. It would resemble things from all manners of walks of life and anything else. It would resemble in some areas that which is the standard civil war that we all hear about. When most of the Civil War violence came about in the form of that which is the outlaw Josie Wells. And people running down farms, killing and destroying the farmers that would be supporting or else off by themselves in the little prepper community, self-sufficient area. Maybe they get a shot or two off, but does it hit anything? Does it do any real damage? No. It's over. Maybe there's a survivor, and the only thing they do is they see whatever the other side is, and it hardens them up to it. Now, in the Civil War, you do have to take out the support staff of it. But if it's a small little family farm keeping themselves up, not something with acreage that can feed and supply armies, which is why I say there's more corporate farms taking over everything. All that that's going to do is make hard and determined people for getting rid of whatever it is on the side that attacked them. It'll be instantly polarizational. There will be the first target. Children. Because it'll be generational. It will be targeting pregnant women and young men first, because our technology is good enough for that. We can't let anybody grow up to a next generation. And hopefully, if there was a civil war, it would do that, be quick about it, and then whoever the middle-aged, older people that win the war will replace the old, feeble politicians. And then they would institute an incredibly stringent, almost to a religious theocracy's litmus test over who would be allowed to immigrate from any place out there. And more than likely only bring over people that would be genetically testable as family to them or compatible to their nature, since we are about to crack personality DNA. Irregardless of the weaponry used, it's everything in the world that could be a weapon, including what you could pick up or your own hands. There's not really an explanation other than that. The economy, people only care about who's the strongest, so their wooden nickels will be better than your gold and silver. And the only thing they might care about is your steel, copper, or lead. Maybe brass. If there was a civil war, that is how it would be. And I think if there really was something of an underlying philosophy, as much as the public is just whipped up over free the slaves and protect our way of life. We ain't never seen a slave. Looking at how people will just litmus test one person for another and go with basically the comedies of Rome and say, this is your color mask, this is your color skin, this is what you look like, this is what it is. It's probably the greatest service in the world is the comedy's cult, and also the greatest weapon in the world, even though it wasn't used last by Mussolini for Rome's defense. The situation as it stands, I wish it could be more of something of a political situation. A need of food or clean water like in France at times. But it is too much of a bloodlust for those that really haven't ever felt or known what it is. And I can hear somebody probably in the back of my mind or something else going, well, you know those up in Wall Street. You know those, they're serial killers. We've got our own serial killers here. We've got our own serial killers over on Plains or something else. Well, you know those, they never had moral values down there in the South. They're basically racist because they're stereotypical in the Pacific Northwest because they've never met anybody or seen anything. And they just bred up a big city and kept to themselves. California's okay. They just kill Orientals and force them into shanty towns that they build up for their own protection. You say New England does that with Hispanics. Mountains in Central Heartland, they do that with natives. You could say anything. And it'd basically be like, well, there's an MO because it's what's in the local area. Play it up. Any foreign national can make that happen. Any one of their versions of a CIA agent can make that happen. Civil War will be upfront, brutal, and if the military was involved fully, all this stuff about mining the natural resources of the parks and everything else, they'll just drop a Hades bomb on it and burn it all off because they don't want you going in there and eating non-hormoned meat or getting fruits and vegetables that are wild out there. Someone asked me what that was they could eat out there, and it's like, I wouldn't tell them. Those people I don't trust. They're trying to prepare themselves for whatever it is that's coming out there. And in the local area, I know what it is for some people to go out there. They'll go crazy eating all that natural food, not being on the chemicals and stuff to keep them down. Whatever you think the mental meds are, first side in a civil war that could get that trash out of their food, all those chemicals out, would win in 6 months. Get it out of their clothing. Get it out of their combat vehicles. Excuse me. That is what I see with Civil War. I can try and define it. Excuse me. Try and say how it does or anything else. But too many people are looking at this as a grand old thing and don't realize how much they can bleed. And no matter what, they'll say, but I'll bleed patriotic. And the person that will say that will be standing there with a fist up, however you want to say it, screaming go, however it is. And it's like they just put black people on television like that. Now, in me saying this as nicely as I can, we need to take things very seriously. In this transition of power, or if something does come up that Biden's health fails, we need to realize people don't realize how much this is a religious war. And under all sides of it, Democratic, Republican, black, white, justice, injustice. The only thing that I can say is we're damn lucky. We never had modern warfare in the Crusades. Now, with everything being said, we need to look at that and understand the vastness of true carnage. And whatever it is, your favorite actor, your television Tonight Show person, you really do need to just look at whatever it is that your 2-year-old had that they smeared all over whenever that 2-year-old was around, and then got it back in kind of a blob on its tray. And understand it's probably what you, your neighbor, or anybody else that you can think of is going to look like on the best of circumstances, so that there's something to bury and you can confirm they're dead. Colin Dawson, Political Minute. Like and subscribe.